Biden op-eds, an attempt to justify more funding will confound allies. Today, November 18, 2023, Joe Biden, quote, wrote an op-ed piece in the Washington Post titled, quote, Joe Biden, the U.S. won't back down from the challenge of Putin and Hamas, end quote. As the title indicates, it is an attempt to link the war in Ukraine and the war in Gaza by framing Vladimir Putin and Hamas as enemies of the U.S. Specifically, just like his funding request to Congress, he is conflating the two wars to get his funding requests, mainly the Ukrainian funding request, through the House of Representatives. Though it tries to offer policy prescriptions for both conflicts, it is a poor attempt to get funding for both wars to the American people and to put pressure on Congress, and it ignores the wider issues. As the Europeans are attempting to find some common ground to start peace talks, while keeping Ukraine in a viable position on the battlefield, Joe Biden's op-ed offers no help to the Europeans' budding initiative. It is just a request to continue funding the Ukraine government and military to continue the war. Though more disturbing, it frames Vladimir Putin and the Russians as America's enemy. The Russians are rivals, and they do have a different worldview than the U.S. and West. But when there's an initiative to find peace, calling Russia America's enemies is not helpful to the peace cause. It almost seems like the intentional act to derail peace chances in the Ukraine. Derailing the peace for Ukraine will not help the mid or long-term security of an independent Ukraine. The other part of the article is an ongoing Israeli-Hamas conflict. Biden once again pledges support for Israel in the war, but spends just as much time he spent on the Israeli self-defense case with the case for the suffering of the Palestinians before and during the current conflict. This appears to be Biden trying to argue both sides as he tries to find a way to appease both the pro-Israeli and the anti-Israeli side of his party. It is doubtful that his weak attempt will heal the divide in his party. Biden also offers a policy for a post-war Gaza Strip, stating that the two-state solution is the only way forward to end an ongoing cycle of violence. This is an old policy prescription dating back to 1993 Oslo Accords and the Bill Clinton administration. It is also a solution that has confounded administrations since, so Biden is offering something that sounds good on paper but cannot overcome Israeli or Palestinian positions. President Trump was the only president since 1993 that gave up on the two-state solution and what he believed was Palestinian intransigence, and instead pursued unlinking the Palestinian question for pursuing peace between the Gulf states and Israel's, the Abraham Accords. President Biden's big breakthrough in his mind was stating that Hamas can never return to power in Gaza, and instead the Palestinian Authority that governs the West Bank take over Gaza. This ignores two things. The Palestinian Authority, simply the PA, did run Gaza until it lost the election to Hamas, who kicked the PA out of Gaza. The other is that Israel rejects governance by the PA because it continues to pay families of prisoners or deceased Palestinians that killed Israelis. The PA knows this Israeli position and have not stopped the practice. So the Israeli response to Biden's solutions is to reject it out of hand and stated the PA would not return to the governing of Gaza. The op-ed by President Biden has probably done more harm than good from the international community's position. The op-ed is meant as for a domestic audience to try to persuade them to support his call to continue funding the war in Ukraine and Gaza, but like so much of the international diplomacy, words matter. So his words are going to be seen outside the U.S. audience. For someone who claims to be an international expert, this seems like another unnecessary self-inflicted wound.